microphone. Shall we turn this into a dance party? No, not gonna
So we're going to try and create a feel of a conversation, a little convo-like vibe. One of my dear friends, Rima Burns-McGowan, who was the poverty and homelessness critic, used to stand up at Queen's Park and demonstrate the ways in which poverty was being legislated. She would go through literally every piece of legislation and just remind everybody that we were all part of legislating poverty and criminalizing the legislation of poverty that we were all privy to. And so while we're gathered here with a lot of like-minded people who understand that poverty is a systemic issue, that it's criminalized purposefully, I think we need to take a step back and actually unpack that and talk about what that looks like. And so to get us started, I'm wondering if everybody on the panel can share how the criminalizing of poverty has shown up either in their life or in their work.
I think I have seen the criminalization of poverty in my life as well as in my work. It's a crime to be poor, and we say that so blithely, but it is so true. When you live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 10 people, you have to get out. You cannot sit there. But I have all these youth who they get out and they go to a basketball court and they play basketball. And the first thing that happens is that the police is called. I have parents who work constantly in order to keep a roof over their head and food on the table. They have to work. But that means that their children are often alone. The first thing that happens is the police are called and FMCS are called. In so many ways, we are policed to the point of despair. Police are used as a club to beat us into submission. If you cannot achieve anything, if you can't move ahead, you can't take a step forward without bucking up against the police. Here's the problem. If I'm homeless and I walk into a mall, go ahead, walk into a mall, any mall right now. You walk into the mall and you sit down, you get a drink, you watch the people go by, you some people watching, nobody troubles you. But the moment you are homeless, which means that you have a few bags traveling everywhere with you because that's all you have, and you walk into a mall, you are not even there for 10 minutes when boom, along comes security. You're gonna have to move along because you are loitering. Can I please tell you, you only loiter when you're homeless or when you're a group of young men or women who obviously don't have money. Then you're loiterers. Anybody else can stay and watch and do whatever they want, but these, they're gonna call the police on you. So either you leave or you're going to get arrested. And if you get arrested, you have money for bail? No, you don't. So guess where you're staying? It is a crime to be poor. And the justice system is the big club that deals with you when you're suffering from poverty. It's not a good thing.
I'm 26 years old. I lived in this region my whole life. I was raised to respect the authorities who are supposed to protect me, but then as soon as I age out of the system, I'm the criminal. It's disgusting. I'm here sitting in front of everyone today because I'm trying to give this community some humanity back, hopefully, and put a face to what it actually looks like to see poverty criminalized. And I would actually like to read an excerpt from my book today that I actually had to read to the person that sat with me during my an hour-and-a-half long tribunal hearing in order for me to convince them that I deserve help. So I read to her. 6 years since Jackson died was the day I was raped. It's taken me 6 years since I was raped to make a minuscule amount of progress to heal from the trauma of not only losing a best friend, but enduring rape on the anniversary of Jackson dying. 2 traumatic events shared by the same anniversary, and though I've healed a lot from being raped, I still struggle with internalizing it. I, at the time, was told by people it was my fault. When I asked my family doctor at the time to get a blood test, she questioned me to find out details, and she said, well, I don't know what to tell you other than don't go to people's houses you don't know. I was an already traumatized youth at the time, and I was alone. I was self-medicating. I was preyed on. My rapist is free to this day, and I found out he still targets vulnerable women and even tried to rape someone else I knew back in high school. I hope one day I can live without flashbacks of his face. I hope one day I can live without flashbacks of seeing my dead best friend. I hope one day I can live without flashbacks at all. I hope one day I can live without suffering from PTSD. I hope one day I can live without suffering in silence.
I think this is just, it's such a reminder these are not abstract issues. These are day-to-day life and death matters for folks living with poverty. And Canada is a settler colonial state, and its foundation in a lot of ways is on the criminalization of people living with poverty, people who are not white, people who are racialized. And I think something that comes through the comments my 3 co-panelists made were just this idea of who the state is there for, right? Who can count on the state, who gets some sort of protection or service from the state, and who doesn't. And part of the criminalization of poverty, I think, is that the state is something that harms, the state is something that can't be counted on, and interactions with the state can be very dangerous for people. And that's something that folks coming from a more middle-class background, folks coming from a whiter background like myself, I think it's really powerful to hear these stories that underline that and remind us of that.
On my phone, I looked up the definition of crime. And it says an illegal act for which someone can be punished by the government. And I think I just want to take a few seconds to think about who gets to define who is criminal. Who gets to define what is a criminal act? I would say that some of the worst perpetrators are government ambassadors who tend to minimize and essentialize and invisibilize the very complex needs, the intersectionality of race, class, and gender. It is not a crime to be poor, but it is criminalized by big people, as my illiterate grandparents would say as I was growing up. Our understanding of poverty is neutralized and erased by political and policy discourses. And what we're talking about today is very simple. Bad public policy and economic exploitation. If you do not think that those are 2 determining factors of poverty, then I don't know what else to say other than to also think of the social determinants of health. When the social determinants of health, housing, food insecurity, education, economic stability, literacy, support system, quality of healthcare, and all the rest of it. If we don't have those elements in place, then our starting point of talking about poverty is compromised. We need a complete and absolute overhaul. We need service coordination. We need to rethink the very complex issues that determine how we experience and how we define and how we theorize poverty.
So we want housing, we want a universal income, we want basic income, we want raise to the rates, we want more affordable housing. People find your voice. People find that thing that's called a ballot and vote for who is going to do the most for you. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you, get out in your community, find out what's going on, who is doing what, and what do we need. Because if we do not come together and push for change, change will not come.